zero to one is very, very difficult. Without data, you're just another person with an opinion, right? And opinions are fine, but they're not.
Hello and welcome everyone to the next episode of the A Media House podcast, Simulated Reality. Today we have with us Ashwin Mittal. He's the founder and CEO at Course5 Intelligence. Course5 Intelligence is an analytics and AI solutions provider working for some of the biggest organizations across the globe. We are going to be talking about building and scaling analytics businesses, and I'm very much looking forward to this conversation today. Welcome, Ashwin. How are you today?
Yeah, doing very well, Kashyap. Thank you, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Fantastic. Okay, Ashwin. So let's kind of build a story. All right. Let's help our audience understand what it takes to build an analytics company, and then help organizations the size of Fortune 500 to scale. Right. What fueled your inspiration to kind of offer these services at the first? Right. So let's start at the very beginning, where it was. Why did you want to offer these services? There were already companies that were doing that. So what was your thought process? How were you going to define a niche or establish yourself into the market to scale to what you are today? So let's start with that.
We've been in this business for a fairly long time. We are one of the earlier players. And at that time, no one, people had not even heard of analytics. And, AI was just something of fiction, science fiction, right? But for me personally, there were a few things that led to my journey, to the start of my journey. One is that I always felt in science-based reasoning. And there was this quote, I think, from Edward Demings, if I remember: "In God we trust; everyone else must bring data." That really resonated with me. And I think you also said something. I think without data, you're just another person with an opinion, right?
Right.
And opinions are fine, but they're not enough, right? Opinions should ideally close the last 20% or 30% or whatever percent, but the journey should start with data and evidence-based reasoning. Was always my view. And I always had a passion for maths and stats, even as a discipline. Unfortunately, I didn't end up studying it further on in higher. I studied more of conventional finance, business, all of those fields. But I always had a passion for that subject. Just going a little bit into history, I had set up a small tech services business in the early 2000s, tech services and BPO services business. And I managed to build a nice small little business. But then I realized that one can't be a generic business and be a small mid-sized company. So I applied whatever I had learned in my business education, and I said, okay, need to pick a niche, a strong growth niche area, and build a leadership position within that niche. So at that time, I did my own study of what was called at that time KPO, if you remember. That time, that was the broad terminology given to the industry, and I picked analytics as what I thought at that time was really going to be a future. And so this is when I embarked upon, building.
Yeah, I think that's a good backstory, and I think even if you say that you did not end up studying mathematics as a subject or statistics as a subject, I think one of the things we have, and all organizations are realizing, that they need to be a little bit more of a consultant. So I think a background in finance, or probably a sector or a function, is probably more relevant when it comes to offering good AI solutions with context, right? AI or data science solutions. One of the things that I've always heard from business leaders is the journey from 0 to 1 is the most difficult, right? 1 to 100, many people in the world can do it. That 0 to 1 is the most difficult. Can you help us set a context as to what that is or was when you started for analytics or AI solutions company, and what was the strategy that you came up with at that time to ensure that you can scale for sure? What was to reduce the risks and sure shot enable the scaling of your business?
Yeah, see, I think, I do agree with you. The 0 to 1 is very, very difficult, right?
Yeah.
Starting with nothing. But honestly, even the 1 to 10, the 10 to 100, and the 100 to 1,000, and we are all learning every day, right? As we are going through our journey, and 1,000 to 10,000 and whatever, right? Is all those stages have their own nuances, and at every stage you have to relearn and unlearn what you learned before. Yes, there are some principles that you establish, and if you're able to carry them forward, then that's great, and you should carry your core values forward. But every stage has different twists and turns and different ways of building a company. So right at the beginning, I would say that one key thing is really who are the few key people that you're able to get around you, right? I mean, I also invest in mentor startups, and I say compromise anything else when you have less money or less resources, but don't compromise the quality of some of the key people that start the journey with you. And so I think that's really critical. And then, beyond that, you just need to really be tenacious. You really need to be willing to do anything and everything yourself. I mean, I remember sitting up every night till midnight, on my cold calling clients on my phone. Of course, now we have a sales team of 30, 40 people in the US and this and that. But, I've made those first, is to make dozens of cold calls to get the first few clients, right? So you have to really be tenacious, and you have to be willing to have the door shut in your face. You have to be a little shameless, and you have to have a lot of self belief. But of course, self belief not with an attitude that you know everything, right? It's an attitude that you're always willing to learn, adapt, always a keen listener. And those things are, also good.
Mm, yeah. It's funny how you say the word shameless, or even, somebody also told me a couple of days back, at your early stages of your any career or a journey, embarrassment is you will be embarrassed in a lot of ways. You will have to do every task that there is, and then probably skill. Right? Setting a little bit of analytics and AI context to it, right? Today, Ashwin, I'm sure a lot of clients come to you, right, and say, you know what, hey, give me Gen AI because I want everybody's doing Gen AI. Right? I don't want to fall behind, or there is a lot of FOMO around this. But as analytics leaders, they have always maintained that there should be a problem if analytics, data science, data engineering fit as a solution or a technology, then you implement that. That is just a means for it. But I'm sure that there has always been, whenever you have had a conversation, there has always been, do some data science in my company, do some Gen AI in my company. Right? I want to understand at the initial days how it happened. Some of your first few clients, was there a problem statement first? Was there somebody saying do some data science for me? And how does it happen today? And how has that changed over a period of years, if it has? I want to understand a little bit of that.
No, absolutely. And great question. So, see, the early years, we were not, at least our journey was, we were not in a position to help someone define a problem statement, right? We had a set of capabilities, and we, went in and had to convince people that we could take their problem statements and convert them into action, right? And deliver them some meaningful result. And in most cases, going back in the very early years, we were entrusted with only parts of the process, right? You do a certain part of the process, only the rest of it I'll handle, whichever was a painful part for the client or they didn't want to do. Or whatever. That has moved meaningfully over the years, right? And in many ways. So one is today we are with the client at the point of the business problem. As you rightly said, it's more about the business problem and what is the use case than okay applying a certain technology. Right? Technologies, they're not easy obviously to develop these capabilities, but technology is available. But the key is, and as you rightly said, again initially you said business function and maths and technology all come together. So now we are brought in at the earlier stage, and we prefer that where the business problem is getting defined. And in that process, we help our clients figure out, okay, what is the right solution? What is the right analytical work product that we need? Should we be applying AI technology? Should we not be applying? In some cases, you still may not need AI technology, right? Sometimes it's something which requires something very basic and simple. Some cases it requires some advanced deep learning, and some cases may require generative AI and what have you. So it depends. We have to figure out what the right technology is, what the right solution is, and then we are working with the client often. In some cases on part of the solution, but in many cases more and more often on end-to-end program, right, where we are driving the end-to-end process from actually working on the data and actually working on driving business impact. So today our focus has gone to driving business impact. And with certain clients where we really have deep relationships, there we are, like you can say, we have this privilege with some clients where they treat us as a partner, on the table when they're thinking about the next steps of their business and how they should plan their business, and around that how they should plan leverage of data, leverage of AI. We have the privilege in some of those cases to be at that table and help them discuss and decide.
Yeah, yeah. No, the reason why I ask you this question is essentially we are talking about scaling an analytics business, right? So then if somebody comes up, so let's say a customer comes up saying that, build Gen AI for us or some trending data-driven technology, right? What is your approach? Do you say yes to that, or if it is even if it is like maybe in a very innovation and at this the scale that you have reached when you have to scale even further, what is your approach in accepting some of the work that is there to sustainably kind of grow? Otherwise you will be focusing a lot of resources on projects which might not end up becoming productized, and then you might lose a lot of resources. Because the some of the companies that you talked about that are partners, they have become they consider you partners because they're seeing real business value on a very day-to-day basis. That might not happen if you're just shooting in the air with a lot of technologies. So that is why my question, like, would be you why is it important to kind of take a business case then only solve it, or in some cases do it? So that is somewhere where I am.
No, great question. Great question. So yeah, see, our business philosophy, the way we built our business is that we want to have larger relationships with key clients. Right? We want to have larger relationships and long-term relationships. If you look at our, let's say, top 10 clients, the average tenure of those relationships is like 9, 10 years. Client attrition at the top level is almost zero. We are very fortunate that we usually don't, we don't very rarely will lose any key client. And we build those relationships over time. And the key term here is business impact, right? So at the end of the day, what impact and can you actually drive on the business, right? It's not about giving a good, yes, it's good to, you have to give a great insight, a great model. But what does that result in top line or bottom line or customer experience, right? These are the three things you can distill in, which are, all other metrics. There are many other metrics, but these are, at least we consider the, metrics right at the very top. And we need to have an impact on one of these. So it's like you rightly said, right? You have to be willing to say no if something doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
right? It's really important. If something is not making sense for that client, for that use case, for that problem, you have to be willing to say no. You have to be willing to push back and willing, and you need to then have that right talent, right, internally, which can understand and then re-architect the solution. So which is why one major area of investment along with our AI labs and other things is SMEs, subject matter experts. That's really, both functional and industrial,
Yeah.
focus certain verticals, certain horizontal, and focus on certain business functions. So yeah, I think, the long term, you have to, focus on doing the right thing in the short term to build for the long term. Otherwise, it will come back to haunt you someday.
Yeah, no, I think too many resources working on projects which are probably a fantasy, or don't know whether they are a fantasy or not. They are allocating the resources wrongly, and I think that's a very important statement, right? You should know when to say no, especially at the scale that you are. One of the things is I want to also understand how so technology has evolved at a very fast pace, especially in the space of data and AI. Right, like we have seen unprecedented this thing. I'm sure there are a lot of your SMEs are also learning so much every day, right? When it comes to technologies, when it comes to scaling a business and a data business, right? Let's call it a data business for covering a broader umbrella. How do you, as a CEO, set frameworks so that there is an evolution of technologies that your company can offer to these people, right? Because I'm sure that you are not on a day-to-day basis, delving into the nitty-gritties of this thing, but you have set up a process, you have set up a framework so that your company adapts very quickly, right, to the changes, and then offers these solutions, state-of-the-art solutions, to these companies so that they are happy. They are happy that they are not missing out on something, plus a business case, plus there is value which they are seeing on a day-to-day basis. How do you do that as a CEO?
No, great question. So it's not easy, but it's something you have to keep working on. While there are various things we do, but maybe there are three. Let me give you three high level. things that we really focus on. One is our investment in our AI labs. We were one of the first India-based analytics companies to carve out a separate function, which is totally focused on R&D. Right? That function does not do any billable work for clients. It's an investment from our end. It's a team of AI scientists that is working on understanding, the science that is being built by, universities, academia, by big tech, along with, various advisors that we are in touch with. And then working with our business teams to understand what is the demands from the clients, what are the use cases, and then bridging the two by building various technologies, applications that can be leveraged at scale to solve those problems using these technologies. So we don't want to build science. Science is being built by academia and big tech, right? But we want to build applied technology on top, and we have to make it relevant to clients. So that's very important. And along with that, what we do is the AI labs ensures that it distills this knowledge and understanding throughout the organization. So while the AI labs is a small team, but the entire organization of 1,500 people, we ensure that this knowledge is being distilled to them. And the second initiative is basically that, which is what we call our Course 5 University. So our Course 5 University is another major investment of ours, and that university takes, the most relevant content and is constantly working on upskilling, reskilling our existing team base. Now, today, for example, right, when we're talking about generative AI, you have on the one hand the need for some very, very advanced technical skills to actually build the models and things like that. But then on the other hand, generative AI democratizes so many things, right? Because now you have all these foundational models available. Something like prompt engineering, anybody can learn, right? So we want to ensure that we build those very high-end tech skills, but at the same time, our entire mass of team understands things, understands how to use these technologies at the grassroots level, right? And
Yeah.
so that's the second initiative. The third one is the most difficult. It is always work in process is culture.
Okay.
And I read this in a book once that the C in CEO stands for culture, right? And I consider that my most important and most difficult job, and that's something we always keep striving on, focusing on, and working on building. And one of our core values is innovation. We have a set of core values we define for our culture. One of them is innovation, where we orient our people to always be curious, always challenge the status quo, always understand the new technology, always find new and better ways to do things. So there
Yeah.
are many things to do to answer your question, but these are three things I would highlight.
Yeah, no, this strikes me again, right? Whenever I have also worked, like let's say even in a bigger organization, values is something which has many people have focused on, and it's such a, for the lack of words, the near future targets for it are absurd. Like, not absurd is a wrong word, probably it's puts a negative connotation to it, but there's a lot of like there's nothing defined as such, right? Let's say you want to put a culture of innovation. How do you measure it? Is there a way to measure it, or do you just, like, how do you measure an impact? Or if you decide on a value, let's say respect as a value, right, in an organization is important, how do you kind of ensure that you have been successful in implementing an innovative culture in, or a culture of respect within your organization?
Yeah, very different, right? So there is, so culture is, that's why culture is not an easy subject. See, culture is where the employee handbook leaves off, right? There is only so much you can put in the employee handbook. It is the discretionary action of each individual when they are given a choice and what they choose to do in that situation, where there is an unstructured situation and they have to take a selection. And each person, we are humans, that's what we're good at, right? That's why we're faced with those discretionary actions. And there's not just a technical answer, there's a culture related answer, right? So it's not easy. We do have, for each one of our culture attributes, we do have some of our measurement mechanisms, right? For innovation, we will look at the kind of innovative projects that we've done, how many projects we've employed, what our customers are saying about us in terms of innovation, what our employees themselves are saying. Voice of employee is very important about the culture of innovation in the organization. So it's a combination of subjective and objective measures that we use for each one of our criteria, right? But while I'm a data person and I believe that you have to measure, and what cannot be measured cannot be managed. amongst all those things, culture is the toughest one, right, to measure
Yeah,
and
yeah.
consistently measure
That's
in a
why
company.
my question. Yeah,
Yeah, so there is a combination of subjectivity there, and that subjectivity is answered by going out and asking the people, right, whether our employees or our clients, and beyond that, some objective metrics we're able to establish, number of innovation projects, or the kind of, let's say, value we've delivered back to clients or whatever.
fantastic, fantastic. My last question to you is: if we take you back 10 years, what would you do differently to even further scale your analytics or data science, or you have no regrets if this is how it will turn out again?
I would say that I have no regrets because I thoroughly enjoyed the journey.
Yeah.
If
Sorry,
I was
regrets is the wrong word, but I mean, like, what would you do differently if if you were given a chance?
so honestly, many things. So so if I said, "Oh, I did everything perfectly," when any CEO says that, then they'll be lying, right?
Yeah.
So and we are all faced with so many decisions every day, and I say if you're able to get, in hindsight, feel like you got 70 to 80% of them right, then that means you've probably been very successful, right?
Mm,
And especially on some of those key decisions. But the key is to ensure that you're always reflective, right? You're always self-critical, and you always learn from mistakes. We all have made some mistakes. I hopefully have gotten more things right than wrong, but you have to consistently keep learning and keep improving and doing better, and be open to hearing from others, right? Whether it's your community, your clients, your key team members, or what.
fantastic. Thank you so much, Ashwin. I think this has been a really interesting conversation. I hope that people also find it. They just listen to it, somewhere and get inspired. Thank you for sharing your insight into this, into your journey.
No, great, Kashyap. I enjoyed the discussion. Thank you.